Hey, friends. Welcome to the launch episode of Dishing on Divorce, the Next Chapter. On this show, we're going to explore what comes next after divorce. I'm your host, Lisa Lisser, CEO and founder of LZL Coaching, a boutique coaching firm focused on divorce, relationships, and life transitions. After going through my own divorce, and then pivoting from being a stay-at-home mom and community leader to pursuing a master's in Jewish education, I'd already been a lawyer. I discovered the power of divorce coaching and recognized a profession that blends all my passions and skill sets. And I'm here to let you know that you can change your life in ways you never imagined. You can find joy and you will be happy again. Think of me as your guide on the side. Today, we have an incredible guest who will share her recipe for finding fun and healing in your life. But before we get there, you are listening and watching the new streaming network, home of Going Solo Media and WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio, Podcasts, and TV. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Roku TV, and wherever you stream your shows and podcasts. Today's guest is Hannah McKitrick. Hannah is an intuitive health and wellness coach. She and I met through the Divorced Girl Smiling network of trusted professionals. What struck me instantly about Hannah was her energy and joy. She lifts women up and shows them new avenues to find meaning, community, and power. And I knew that she would be the perfect first guest for today's show. So, welcome, Hannah.
Hi, Lisa. Thank you so much. So excited.
I'm so excited too. So, I'm going to read your bio so let people know a little bit more officially about you, and then we'll start to talk, okay?
Perfect.
So, Hannah brings joy and lightness back into self-growth and health journey, paving a new way that transcends diets and embraces the synergy between energy and food. As the founder of My Intuitive Health, she creates sanctuary spaces in her virtual cooking classes and on retreats in Italy, where people can experience embodied alignment. The foundation of her approach is joy-infused wellness that nurtures the whole self, physically, emotionally, and energetically. By integrating energy work with mindful nourishment and intentional connection, she creates a gentle, flexible, and playful path towards self-growth and alignment. Her approach prioritizes joy as the key to transformative health, using food, connection, and embodied experiences to inspire vibrancy and healing from within, and rejecting the rigidity that can stifle self-growth. Trained in energy work and psychic development, and a student of Eastern medicine at the Academy of Healing Nutrition, Hannah also attended culinary school in Italy and healed her own gut from Crohn's disease through food. Through her work, Hannah helps clients access a higher vibration and nurture their soul health from the inside out. Whether in her transformative cooking programs or during her culinary wellness retreats in Southern Italy, she offers an uplifting space for people to experience healing and self-discovery with a healthy dose of joy and fun. Welcome, Hannah.
Thank you, Lisa. So good to be here.
It's so good to have you. And that is some intro. I mean, your bio is incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. It's such an honor to bring back that spark into people's lives, you know.
I have always felt, as someone who loves food and sees eating as a social, enjoyable experience, that food should be about joy and happiness and bringing people together. But so often, food seems like structure and stress. And can I have this? What am I putting in my mouth? Am I allowed? Do I have to earn it? There are so many layers that we put on top of food. So to sort of unburden ourselves with those layers, I think it's so exciting to hear about your work and the intuition that goes behind it. Um, so let me start by asking you my first question for everyone. Tell us your story.
Oh my gosh. Like, it's a lifelong journey, you know?
Oh,
But, basically, I was born with a love of food. I love food. I'm a huge foodie. I speak the language of food. I feel the vibrations of food. And as you read in my bio, I went through a Crohn's disease journey. I got diagnosed when I was 12. And what wasn't in my bio was I also, at age 12, suffered from severe anxiety that kind of found a place in my heart for many years to
mhm,
come. And so I had a body that was really attacking itself in so many words, and a mind that was attacking me. And so I I've had a felt embodied experience of that heaviness physically and emotionally. And I went on my own healing journey with food for my gut when I was 19. And so the doctors were going to have to do surgery on my gut. And that's when I decided to use food to bring myself back to baseline. And so I went on this healing diet of vegetables and whole grains, not much else. And it was a really profound experience because I was nurturing myself physically perfectly. Like, I was eating perfectly, quote, quote. However, I was starving myself emotionally
mm,
and spiritually. So I was 19, and so it was challenging to live a social summer. And I couldn't really go away on weekends with my friends, or go out to dinner or anything like that. And it just it lowered my energetic vibration, like being in that restriction, even though I was healing my gut. And so it worked on a physical level, but I needed to find another way to integrate more harmony into my whole being. And so the way I did that was adding things back in that brought me joy. So and that changes year to year, day to day, but at that time I was going back to college. So what joy looked like was late night pizza and going out with my friends, juxtaposed with this foundation of simple nutrition, whole foods and vegetables. And what I found was that I really could add those emotionally joyful foods back in without it rocking the boat physically. And I haven't had a flare up in 12 years, and this is how I still live my life. It's my intuitive health, if you will. And so that kind of sparked my foundation of the way I eat and the way I help uh, give an example of other people as a way of being and eating. And it kind of all came together because, like you said, I went to culinary school in Italy, studied nutrition, like all of that stuff. And one of my specialties, I think, is combining healing foods with flavor. And when healthy food tastes good, like, you want it, you crave it. And so that's a lot of what my classes do, is giving people that embodied experience, of how much fun it can be when health isn't strict, and when it tastes really yummy, and when it's done in community. Um, and then the way I kind of healed my anxiety, if you will, I mean, that's its whole other journey. But at the essence of it, it's really permissioning myself to be myself and following what feels fun and alive for me. And so that's kind of been step by step by step. And the Italy retreats that I host really help people to embody their own light essence as well, so that they too can ground back down into what brings them the most joy. And for the people that come with me, it's usually Italy, travel, connection, community, pasta, wine.
yeah. So there is so much there. Um, that I want to bring back to the center here.
Yeah.
That so much to talk about. So you had an illness that led you to this journey,
Mhm.
and it was really that Western medicine was saying you needed surgery.
Right.
You went back to basics and said, whether it was out of fear, like I don't need surgery, or commitment to your body that you didn't want to invade the turf of
Yeah.
your body
Yeah.
before you explored all of the avenues.
Mhm.
Um, but you went on a journey to
Mhm.
find what would work. But what you also mentioned was that though the journey required creativity in finding the foods that were healing, it also embodied what felt like deprivation.
Mhm.
You had to deprive yourself of certain fun activities in order to complete the task of being good on the
Right.
eating scale. And so what you had to learn was how to incorporate certain things back in and not deprive yourself. And
Right.
so what I'm taking from that is, for my audience that are looking at life after divorce, so often we see what we don't have and we look at it as deprivation, right? We don't have the life we had before divorce. And so it just looks like a map of deprivation. But what you're sharing and what we can incorporate back in is that we don't have to only see what's not there. We can start adding back in the flavor. So
Yeah.
what's the flavor that we want to add back in are these bits of fun. And so that's where I see like the synergy between your work and your life experience. And so how did you figure out what that balance was between eating whole foods and late night pizza and beer? In like that seems like a little rough, but you had to find a balance there. So what helped you keep that in balance?
Well, I would say, it's a personal journey for everyone of self-discovery, and it's a never-ending journey, and it's an ever-changing journey. And so for me, it was uncharted territory what that was like, going back to school and wanting to commit to my body, but also wanting to commit to my soul and my social life. And so I believe that there's a synergy that everyone can access when the mind and the body and the soul are all at the table and all have space to have an input in your life, right? If one of them is dominating the other, then it's out of balance. And this can be applied to anything, right? Like after a divorce, if you're in your mind all day long of like overanalyzing, overthinking, feeling sad, all these things, and you're not doing anything to nurture your soul or your body, there's a out of balance thing that's happening. And so for me, it was really a journey of trial and error to see what worked. And in college, I had to be a little more rigid. Like I remember not being able to drink coffee more than like one day a week, versus now I drink 2 cups every day, decaf, but I drink 2 cups, and I've built a lot more solidity within my gut the longer I've been on this journey, both physically but also mentally, because the our thoughts, also affect our gut, the mind-gut connection. And so, the more I've gone on my self-growth journey, the nicer my thoughts are, thank God. And so it helps my stomach. The other piece of it is that once I was able to cook my own food is really when my inflammation labs went to like 0. And so it's the power of cooking is such a powerful tool for alignment, because it's the food that we're making, but it's also our own intentionality and love and joy that we're bringing into the process that gets digested into our gut, into our energy, and helps to kind of sustain that mind, body, soul balance for me. Um, and so to sum it up, I would say just I eat a lot of vegetables, but I make them taste really good, and then I have a side of whatever else I want, you know? And that's kind of worked for me, in this journey.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds wonderful, right? Like, and what I like and what I want to share with my audience is the trial and error,
Mhm.
because it doesn't start perfect, right? We need to try things, make some mistakes, learn from the mistakes, and then try new things.
Right.
So like we can live where we're taking some risks. And so
Right.
sometimes people are really afraid to try new things because what if that's a mistake?
Yeah.
What if I really can't eat this thing? I'm going to get so bloated. Let's
Mhm.
say I'll use that term. Well, you won't know until you try. Or,
Mhm.
if I know that I'm allergic to something, let's try and steer clear of that. But
Mhm.
there are things that we don't know until we try. And
Right.
so we have to try. That's why when you do have food allergies, you do tests.
Mhm.
When I was a kid, I was tested for allergies and they did scratch tests. And I had like numbers up and down my arm of everything I might be allergic to. But it was a
Mhm.
test. It looked really dumb when I walked to school with like 15 marker numbers up and down my arm, but you needed to try it out to
Mhm.
see so that you could make reasonable decisions on what to try and what not to try.
Mhm.
And and I think that that's a really great lesson when you're moving forward through divorce. Like you are going to step into things that are going to work, but some things aren't going to work. And that's
Totally. Yeah, yeah, and it's why I'm such a proponent of embodied experiences because it's one thing to, like, I don't know, read about something online, look at recipes online, but it's another thing to actually do it and experiment with it. And in the virtual classes that I hold, it's a microcosm for life. And so I'm like to people, get messy, make mistakes, light things on fire, like taste it, see, like as we go along the recipe, see if you like it, you know? And so as we're doing it, yeah, we're cooking, but people are also grounding into the present moment. They're tapping into their intuition. They're letting their guard down in because they're being held in a space with a guide, and they're permissioning themselves to experiment and to go through that process of finding out what works for them, and in this case it's what tastes good for them, right? And yeah.
Yeah, and I love it. I signed onto your website this morning and I put my name in to get your 15-minute recipes. And I clicked on two of the links. One was uh basil pesto fish with kale, and it
Mhm.
was like a lemon pesto kale dressing. And they're such easy, simple recipes that if you are creative with what you want to try, you can really experiment,
Oh,
and
totally.
that's what I love, and I'm an experimenter. Like, if I just traveled to Israel and I bought some fresh za'atar. So,
Mhm.
I'm putting on za'atar on everything now, which is, a Middle Eastern spice, and maybe it goes with some things and not with others, but a little za'atar and lemon, and most things taste really good.
Yeah.
So it's like just experimenting and trying, is really exciting, and so I
Yeah,
love that.
my brain is racing because that recipe that you're talking about, it's an urban walnut crusted fish with a green goddess kale salad, and I'm thinking, like, instead of the herb, you could do the za'atar and do, like, a za'atar and nut lemon zest crusted
Mm,
fish to make it kind of
so
Middle Eastern. Yeah.
very delicious, very delicious.
Yeah.
So let me talk about one thing that is really unique about your work, and we've talked about it a little bit, but you have these retreats in Italy.
Yes.
Wow. So that seems very luxurious. And
Mhm.
so let's talk a little bit about that and how people can like permission themselves, give themselves permission to take such a big leap and
Mhm.
these retreats. Tell
Yeah.
us more.
Yeah, so, as a society, we're conditioned, not to sound grim, but we're kind of hamsters on a wheel. like day after day, doing the same thing, being around the same people, thinking the same thoughts. And so, in order to shift your reality and to shift the way things are going, you have to shift something. You have to shift what you're doing. And so, retreats are really sacred and special because it's a intentional space for people to step into a different reality and step into a version of themselves that's more aligned with their true essence, because the day-to-day stuff of what is usually around them isn't there. It falls away and it's just them. And the the powerful thing about retreats is that it catapults you to your next up level, because when you commit to a retreat for your soul, you're committing to your soul's next up level. And so being on the retreat, it reminds people of the beauty of who they are. And there's different activities that intentionally help create that space, and exercises to kind of ground people into that. And it's like that's priceless. And I've personally had those experiences. I'm a retreat junkie. I love them because the first time I went to one, I still remember. And um my biggest takeaway on that retreat was compassion to myself, because I would spend all day long just like judging myself and trying to hide different parts of myself, and like, this is too shameful to speak to anyone, and this is too shameful, and this is too shameful. And then you go on retreat and you're in a circle, a really safe space, and you share these things, and everyone around you is like, oh yeah, like me too, or like, oh, that makes so much sense. And I'm like, what? You think that makes sense? And it's what's the word? Not the opposite of escalate. It deflates the intensity of the guards that we're holding, right? And so it permissions you to be, permissions you to bring compassion to yourself. And so someone who is considering if they want to allow themselves that, it's like, well, is are the way things going right now working for you, or do you want to make a shift? Could be one question. And then the other piece of it is the play and the joy and the fun, like you said. And one of my main intentions on the retreats that I hold for people is to give them a felt experience of how good life can be and how fun it can be to be so nurtured and so cared for, and have an itinerary that like lights you up. And so, yes, I hold space for people during the coaching circles, but it's also a lot of intentional integration of joy. And what that looks like tangibly on retreat is going on day trips, going to the farmer's market, going to farm to table 6-course dinners with wine pairings, going to winery and olive oil tastings, and then also doing hands-on cooking classes and demonstrations with Italian chefs, and like getting messy in the kitchen, and little cocktail parties on the terrace, swims, and I could go on and on. But what the point of those activities are is to have people, like I said, experience the joy, because a lot of times in our life, we're always trying to fix something, trying to better ourselves, trying to do this, and this. And part of the intention of this is just to, set that aside for 1 second and just let yourself be and let yourself enjoy the moment and the community.
That's great. That's great. So, with that in mind, we're going to take a short 30-second break, and we will be right back. And we're back with Hannah McKitrick, our intuitive health coach. So, we're talking about the retreat, and I was reading your website, and you say The power that comes from going on retreat will change your life forever. By saying yes to this retreat, you are committing to transforming whatever is feeling sticky or off in your life and will bring you more ease and lightness. The magic is in the energy. The experience is curated to weave fun, support, empowerment, possibility, and bliss into your entire being.
Yes.
I
Oh.
love that. I love that for so many reasons, but especially for the word sticky, because
Mhm.
in coaching, we so often use the word stuck, like I'm
Mhm.
stuck. But when we shift that to use the word sticky, it's like a food related word, right? Like I think of sticky rice, I think of sticky counters, I think of sticky fingers, where we're trying to clean off or we're having fun making Play-Doh, with our kids, or we're making cookies and we're sticky,
Mhm.
or the batter is sticky. And like, this is about the tactile experience of our life. Like,
Mm.
stuck is in our heads,
Mhm.
sticky is something we can touch. So
Mm.
when we're cooking in Italy, we're actually getting sticky in a different way so that we can become unstuck out of our heads. And I, like, loved that, like, that whole idea of, like, get out of our own way so we can get in up to our elbows. You know what I mean?
That's such an interesting way to think about it. I never thought about it like that. I actually picture it energetically, like sticky to me. I think of like when something just feels off, like something's not quite flowing in your life, like whether it's with your job or money or relationships, like it just feels a little kind of like sticky is kind of what I call it. And with retreats, like you step into a higher vibration. You just do. And when you're in that higher vibration, the stickiness or the stuff that's not working or not flowing just starts to it doesn't match to that new vibration. And so it does naturally fall away because it's just no longer aligned with who you are at that upgraded version of yourself.
Right, but and also, like, because I still have this food metaphor in my head, it's like when you blend a batter, it gets less and less sticky.
Mm,
And
mhm.
you blend it because you're really integrating things. So you're integrating all the ingredients together. So when you start integrating all your parts in life, you become less stuck because
Mm.
you you
Yeah.
you go together. You don't have to separate out the different parts of
Yes.
yourself.
Totally, totally. It's not half baked anymore, right? It's like yeah.
We gotta keep going. I like the metaphors.
Yeah. Uh,
So, but it sounds like so much fun, and, the pictures are always of a sunny day because it must never rain in Italy.
well, it was so funny, like, one of the years, actually, there was rain on the it doesn't ever rain there, and there's rain on the forecast every day, and I was kind of having, like, one of those moments of, like, "Okay, like, we got it's cool, we'll be calm." But speaking of the magic, I asked the Calabrian gods, I was like, "Can you please just not make it rain, like, when we go outside for our coaching circle or, like, when we have this day trip to Tropea?" And literally, we would get on the bus to the day trip, it would be pouring rain. We'd get off the bus, clear it would clear. Get back on the bus, pouring rain. And so, like, that's kind of a glimpse of the serendipities that happen there. It's really cool.
Well, it's about being in alignment with the energy,
Mhm.
right? You talk about alignment and you talk about energy, and I very much think in coaching that we can create an energy that we can go through life with. And
Mm,
so even if it's raining, we
yeah,
can be in alignment with the raining energy because rain can be refreshing.
yeah.
And sometimes even in a downpour, we need to wash away some of the negative energy. So the downpour can be a real cleanse.
Totally.
Need.
Totally, and life is a lot easier, and this is a lesson I'm learning forever, um,
Yes.
when we allow, right? Instead of resist what's there. It's so simple, but like
Yeah, I mean, that's a Carl Jung quote, "That which we resist persists."
right, right.
So
Mm,
it chases us. So, like, let's just we can't control it,
mm-mm,
so we can't worry about it.
mhm,
You know, I was interviewing Jackie Pilosoff, who
mhm.
is, the leader of Divorced Girls Smiling, and a network that Hannah and I met through, and, maybe instead of worrying, we can wonder,
Mhm.
so that it takes the negative aspect of the worry and the concern and says, what is this here to teach me? And
Right.
that's a big ask. It's a big ask
Mhm.
because when things are not going right,
Right.
it's so easy to fall into our negative bias.
It's a practice, right? And the more you do it, the more you see and feel and reap the benefits of a life that's not tormented by your thoughts.
Right? And so getting back to food, when food is not the enemy, but food can be seen as
Mm,
that in your life which gives you joy,
mhm.
that in your life which builds community.
Yeah.
And even like, so for women who are post divorce,
Mhm.
they may be eating alone for the first time in their lives.
Totally, totally, and so a lot of the people that, are in my classes, like, they do live alone. They're either divorced or empty nesters, and they want to they want to cook well for themselves, right? They want to better themselves, but it can be lonely when you don't have a lot of people to cook for, and so, um when you're in a class with community, you're bringing that communion aspect back into the eating experience, and food is meant to be shared, and so it's a really, sacred thing that happens when women alone all over the country can come together, and break bread together or whatever, cheers their wine through the screen, like, it's a really uplifting thing um that someone can look forward to, you know?
So why don't you share about that? Because I know what you're talking about, but I don't think that my audience does. So share about these women who are cooking across the screens.
Like, share about what a class is?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
we'd love to hear about that. Yeah.
sure. So, my vessel for bringing joy are virtual mind body healthy cooking classes, and so, um, I do this in the form of a membership. I have a monthly membership, with 1 live class a month and weekly recipes, and so what the live class is everyone gets the recipe ahead of time, they get the shopping list, and then they get all the ingredients and show up on Zoom with just the ingredients laid out, and we go through step by step together, making this meal from start to finish, and so last night, so I have my membership, then I also have higher level group programs. And so last night was one of the higher level groups, and we made homemade roasted red pepper hummus with cauliflower steaks and a tomato cucumber feta topping with an herb Greek yogurt drizzle. And so it's really simple ingredients, really veggie heavy, and like yummy sauces that just make it taste so succulent. And the thing is, it's not complicated and someone could totally do it on their own. Like they don't need to be in the live class, but the the special thing that happens in the live classes is it's the accountability to create something so luxurious for yourself that's also so healthy, and it's also the connection and the energy exchange. And so what happens in a class are is that people it's alignment training, right? And so people step into a more aligned version of themselves physically and mentally, because the act of the class and the act of cooking shifts their vibration, and then they bring that into their food. And I actually had one of my clients email me last night just thanking so much because she's going through something with her partner, and this was her first time cooking for them in the state that she's in, and she was like, "It was such a healing experience for that night. And so whether you're having a rocky relationship or with your teenagers, I've had that before, or just for yourself, it's something that shifts not only your energy, but the energy of the house. Um, yeah.
Yeah, that's really powerful. And it's building community.
Yeah.
As you said, building the community through the screen, but you're getting to know the other people and maybe a little bit about their lives, maybe not so much, but you're all doing the same activity together. And
Mhm.
if someone spills something, it's happening to everyone,
Yeah.
right? In my house, when I was raising my kids, and currently, it's not a meal until one of my daughters spills something. So,
Yeah.
that's sort of like, okay, now it's a meal. So, but that's the kind of community you build.
Yeah.
And when people are telling me that they feel really lonely, their social circle has changed dramatically since their divorce, this is a great opportunity to find a new and different community. Like, you don't only have to meet divorced people, but you're meeting people who really share an interest. And yes, it's mostly women, I'm sure, but it's also women who are engaged in a task that is fun and lively, and you're going to connect and you're going to have fun.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
knowing that for sure is a real,
Mhm.
real positive way to move forward into your next stage.
Yeah, and the best part is that you get a really yummy meal at the end
There
that
you
tastes so
have it.
good,
And you
and
get
that's
to eat.
healthy. Yeah,
And it's healthy, and it's
yeah.
healthy. So, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so my website is myintuitivehealth.com, and I have all my fun programs, retreats on there. You can sign up for any of them or book a call. I'd love to talk to anyone.
Oh, that's so great. I'm so glad to have you for our first inaugural episode of Dishing
Woohoo!
Divorce, Next Chapter. For all of my regulars, you can see me on Tuesday. We will have our regular Dishing on Divorce, and I'm going to leave it a surprise who we're getting. She is a real influencer, and we are going to lean in. I promise you will see the founder, and that's going to be great. And you can find me at Lisa at lzlcoaching.com or www.lzlcoaching.com. So until next time, you are listening to WGSN-DB Going Solo Radio Network TV.